The only thing worse than telling your wife that you lost your mortgage payment betting on table tennis at 3 a.m. would be avoiding these 7 players that I would bet my life savings on this fantasy season. And by the end of today's video, you're going to be taking out a second mortgage to bet on these players as well that I love this season. Before we can get on into things, though, I would like to ask that if you are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure they leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. So without further ado, let's get into 7 players I'd bet my life savings on this fantasy season. We begin with Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Current consensus ADP from Sleeper, ESPN, NFL, and CBS Sports have him as the wide receiver number 8 at pick number 15. So BTJ, despite the fact that he was dominant in his rookie year, is still not going inside the first round. He is an early second round pick. Last year, he put on a clinic. He was the wide receiver 4 on the season in PPR and the wide receiver 12 in PPR points per game. He played in 17 games last season, 10 games with Trevor Lawrence and 7 games with Mac Jones. He had 133 targets, 14th at wide receiver, 7.8 per game, 87 receptions, 12th, 5.1 per game, 1,282 receiving yards, 3rd, 75.4 per game, and 10 total touchdowns, 5th at the wide receiver position. Now, I fully understand that if you look at the splits with Trevor Lawrence versus with Mac Jones, Brian Thomas Jr. actually had better numbers with Mac Jones, and that is not because Trevor Lawrence is straight up cheeks. It's not because Mac Jones is revitalizing his career. He is now going to be this elite quarterback. It is because down the stretch of the season, they realized that they should lock on to force feeding the ball to BTJ because that is how the offense will be able to move the ball more effectively. So it wasn't really that BTJ struggled because Trevor Lawrence was really bad. It was just because the offense kind of shifted more into the hands of Brian Thomas Jr. Only Jamar Chase last season scored more points from week 13 on after the Jags bye week. He had 22.9 points per game in that spread from week 13 all the way through week 18. He was special to end the season, and it was with Mac Jones. And I think that Trevor Lawrence, especially with Liam Cohen, is a huge upgrade over Mac Jones. BTJ was the only player last season to have 500 plus yards after the catch while having a 10 plus yard ADOT. And PFF put out what a rookie year for Brian Thomas Jr. In the regular season. He was the wide receiver 4, and in the fantasy playoffs in PPR, he was the wide receiver number 1, and yet you can still get him inside of the second round in a lot of drafts. And frankly, if you wanted to take him at the end of the first round, I'm not going to judge you at all because I honestly think that's probably where he should be going in terms of efficiency. Despite being 50th in target accuracy last season with 6.3, he was 8th in yards per route run, 15th in yards per target, 9th in yards per team pass attempt, and 2nd in dominator rating. I'm a huge fan of what I believe Liam Cohen is going to be able to do with this offense. We saw how good Baker Mayfield and that Bucs offense was maneuvering last season with Liam Cohen moving the strings of the marionette doll of that offense. So I do believe that, sure, there are some reasons to worry about Trevor Lawrence because he really hasn't lived up, in my humble opinion, to the praise, the Sukalamink, the Gawk Gawk 9000 that everyone was giving him coming out of Clemson into the NFL. But frankly, I believe it is wheels up for BTJ. Now, I get adding in Travis Hunter might scare some people, but to be honest, I'm not worried at all. BTJ is still the undisputed, clear number 1 wide receiver in this offense. I think he has a clear path towards finishing as the wide receiver 1 in fantasy football this season. And again, when you look at a rookie's season, when they start to build momentum towards the end of the rookie year, it is a good indicator that the second year, the next season, is going to be huge for the player, and that's exactly what we saw out of BTJ. Next up, we move to another second-year player, and that is going to be Bucky Irving, running back of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, currently coming off the board as the running back number 11 in consensus ADP as the running back number 26. Now, there was a report from a couple of weeks ago from an article from Dan Pompey. He says Bowles says he expects greatness from Bucky Irving as the game has slowed down for Irving and he has improved his footwork and pass protection. Bucky Irving's opportunities are likely to increase substantially this season per head coach Todd Bowles. And the reason why I think it's important to note the pass protection, that is how a running back is able to stay on the field, right? If they trust Bucky Irving to be able to block for Baker Mayfield, that is going to allow him to stay on the field more, thus getting more opportunities to run the ball as well as catch passes out of the backfield. Now, last year was a great season out of Bucky Irving. It was very evident throughout the season that he was better than Rachaad White, and we did eventually kind of see him receive the workload he deserved later on in the season. He was the running back 13 in PPR and the running back 19 in PPR points per game. He had 17 games played on the season with 3 starts. He averaged 12.2 carries per game, 19th at running back with 207 carries, 1,121 rushing yards, 10th, 65.9 per game, 52 targets, 15th, 47 receptions, 10th, 392 receiving yards, 9th, and 8 total touchdowns, 18th at the running back position. Now, if you look at the graphic on your screen, I've highlighted the games where Bucky Irving played 60+% of the snaps, and there are only 2 instances of this being the case during the regular season. It was week 6 up against the Saints, where he scored 18.5 fantasy points as the running back 12, and week 18 up against the New Orleans Saints, where he scored 16.4 fantasy points as the running back number 9. And then in the playoffs, he had a game with over 60+% of the snaps, and that was up against the left hands up, who are we? The Commanders, where he scored 16.3 PPR points. So we can see that when they actually push the offense into the hands of Bucky Irving, this is a guy that can do incredible things with the football. And that is further backed up not just by my eye test and the way that I see the game, it is backed up by the efficiency stats. In terms of true yards per carry, 4.9, he ranked 6th. He was 5th in yards per touch, 3rd in juke rate, 6th in explosive rating, and he was 2nd in yards created per touch. And if you look at this graph, running back yards over expected per carry and yards after contact per carry in 2024, Bucky Irving is near the top. So Bucky Irving is an incredible running back. He was a guy that we talked about last season, but it kind of seemed like Rachaad White had that role early on, that Rachaad White was going to be the guy. But even with what Rachaad White has been able to do throughout his career with the Buccaneers, Bucky Irving is the guy. Again, head coach Todd Bowles wants Bucky Irving to be the guy, and he doesn't even need to be this quote-unquote workhorse running back like Saquon Barkley, like Christian McCaffrey, like Bijan Robinson, for him to dominate 50 Shades of Grey style in fantasy football this season. So based on the high highs we saw last season and based on the fluff that we are seeing from the coach Todd Bowles, I feel very confident in an amazing sophomore season out of Bucky Irving. And again, the efficiency numbers are beautiful. Chef's kiss. Magnifique. Next up, we got player number 3, and that's going to be Chase Brown, running back of the Cincinnati Bengals, current ADP, running back 12 at pick number 28. Now, Bengals offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher is committed to making Chase Brown a superstar this season. Chase Brown is going to, by the end of the season, be a household name. He's everything Austin Eckler was. Y'all all know who he is. You guys remember Austin Eckler a couple of years ago on the Chargers, where he was able to put up these crazy fantasy numbers? That comparison from the offensive coordinator is music to my ears. Chase Brown last season was 6th in targets, 5th in receptions, 13th in receiving yards. And if the offensive coordinator is comparing him to Austin Eckler, a guy who made his money, scored those points in fantasy football out of the receiving game, that means very positive gains for Chase Brown in his receiving game. And I love that for fantasy. If you're in a half PPR, full PPR league, you know how important it is for your running back to get pass catching opportunities and how much that can boost a running back who maybe might not even be as skilled to be able to finish at the top of his position. 16 games played with 10 starts. He was 16th in terms of carries, 17th in rushing yards, 6th in targets, 5th in receptions, 13th in receiving yards, and 11 total touchdowns, 12th at the running back position. Now, from weeks 9 through 17 was when the team truly handed the keys of the backfield, Fast and Furious style, from one running back, Zach Moss, to Mr. Chase Brown because of the injury to Zach Moss. He was a top 12 running back from weeks 9 through 17 in 6 of 8 games, a top 8 running back in 5 of 8 games, and in 4 of 8 games, he finished inside of the top 5. So half of those games, he was a top 5 running back. And if you look at weeks 1 through 8 compared to weeks 9 through 17, it's night and day. Weeks 1 through 8, he's running back number 30, right? 11.3 PPR points per game. And then you look at weeks 9 through 17, almost double the amount of PPR points, 20.6, as the RB number 3, because his snap share greatly increased. They have other running backs on the team, and it's not like Chase Brown needs to even be a workhorse running back, in my opinion, like Bucky Irving, as long as they just decide to give him 75+% of the snap share in the offense. I feel very confident that he has clear top 10, top 5 upside, in my opinion. And again, based upon the fact that Bengals offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher was really glazing up Chase Brown, comparing him to Austin Eckler has me feeling incredible about Chase Brown this season. A quote from Nick Wigglemoe, I hope I pronounced your name correctly, on Twitter. He said, Chase Brown used the running back 10 in total PPR points, RB 14 in points per game, 15.9. But the 8 games without Zach Moss, 18.9 carries per game, 5.5 targets per game, RB 1 in expected PPR points per game. I'm not going to sit here and rave about Chase Brown's efficiency like we did with Bucky Irving, like we did about BTJ, because frankly, the efficiency numbers for Chase Brown aren't as good, but he is the clear RB1 on an offense that is going to score a shit ton of points, on an offense that has to score points for them to win games, because their defense is going to be getting their back blown out all game long. And sure, that might worry you for a running back, right? Because they're not able to run the ball as much late in the game if it's a closer game and they're not in front leading, handing the ball off, where Derrick Henry gets a lot of fantasy points. Chase Brown's a great pass catcher, so he is going to be heavily involved in this offense. And again, while I said he only needs like 75-ish% of the snaps, he could be a guy that averages 85% of the snaps. That wouldn't really shock me at all. I love Chase Brown. Again, I am addicted to drafting guys on the Bengals because the offense is just going to score so many points. Next up, we move to Breece Hall, running back of the New York Jumbo Jets, ADP running back 14 at pick number 35. Before we talk about Breece Hall and the other players that I'm going to be betting my life savings on this fantasy season, I would like to give you guys a quick word from our friends, our partner over at Underdog. If you're brand new to Underdog, and sign up using the link in the video description or using promo code Notorious, you'll get your free pick plus a first deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash, as well as receiving my draft guide straight to your email. I receive an email with your email the day after you sign up, so you'll receive the email the next morning. The draft guide is going to be released on August 1st, so everyone that has already signed up will receive it on August 1st. I love drafting over on Underdog. It's the best part about best ball, and that's it. It's the draft. There's no waivers, no trades, no in-season management. Underdog automatically puts the highest scores into your lineup at the end of every single week. Their biggest tournament, Best Ball Mania, $2 million to first place, $15 million total prizes, $25 to enter. So make sure you guys do check out Underdog. Come draft with me on there. Again, promo code Notorious. Get your free pick. Get that deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash, and also get my draft guide for free. So Breece Hall, there was a lot of talk about what Breece Hall's role was going to be going into the season, because there was some murmurs going around. Birdies were chirping, saying that maybe Breece Hall was going to get traded from the Jets, right? Maybe that was going to happen. It was going to be some blockbuster trade during draft day, like when A.J. Brown got traded from the Titans to the Eagles, where everyone was going to be shocked. And there was a report from earlier on in the offseason that running back Breece Hall saw all of the trade rumors this offseason and wasn't sure what was going to happen. Head coach Aaron Glenn called him up to clear the air. Breece, do you think I want to trade you? Breece Hall said, I do not know. And then Aaron Glenn said, Breece, I don't want to trade you. I want you to be here. You're going to be here. You're our running back. Then, yesterday, Harrison Glazer, New York Jets, TF Media says Aaron Glenn on some of the ways the Jets plan to utilize running backs Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. I told Breece today that the receiving will be an element to his game that we're going to try and make sure that we utilize. And Braylon, a 240-pound back, that always is going to be able to fall forward. That's where he's going to make his money, just being able to downhill run. That's going to weigh on defensive players. And when you continue to do that, you create something as far as a team, as far as an identity that this league will notice. And I'm looking forward to that. Now, Breece Hall was a guy that in 2023 really got boosted up by his receiving ability. He had 76 receptions, but last year he only had 57. So the fact that Aaron Glenn has already made a note that they want to be giving more pass catching opportunities to Breece Hall due to how effective he has been at catching passes out of the backfield in his career is music to my ears. I know that Aaron Glenn did give a little sucky to Braylon Allen, and Braylon Allen is still going to get usage, but I really do believe that Breece Hall is still a bell cow back. There's a reason why you drafted him last season inside of the top 6, inside of the top 3. Some people drafted Breece Hall as the RB1, as pick number 1 last season, the 101 Uno overall, and now everyone's jumping ship because of one down season where the Jets were a complete and utter fucking disaster, where Robert Saleh becomes the quote-unquote, they just kind of, I don't even know how to describe it. They make him as the bad guy, like you are inside a Scarface. I'm the bad guy, and they cut bait on him. They kind of put the target on him. They say, no, you're gone. They have a interim head coach. They trade for Devontae Adams. They try to do everything possible, and the ship just goes down, and Breece Hall went down with the Titanic. He was listening to them play the fucking fiddle, listening to them play the, I almost said the harmonica, but whatever that thing is, the clarinet that Squidward plays. If you've seen the Titanic movie, that's what they were playing as the ship was going down. I did study history in high school. I don't know if that was actually true or not, but I'm just assuming that it was true, right? But we all know that assumptions make an ass out of you and me, and if you expect every movie about a historical event to be real to life, that's a little bit crazy. But we did end up seeing Breece Hall suffer last season just because of the offense. There was a lot of mumbo-jumbo going on. And sure, do I think Justin Fields is necessarily going to lift this offense straight to the top, to the top? Shout out to Troy Bolton. Probably not, but I do think that Justin Fields is competent enough to know when to dump the ball down, and there's going to be a lot less distractions this year, and I don't think Aaron Glenn is going to allow that to happen. So he played 16 games last season. The knee injury was in week 13. He misses week 14 and returns to an up and down snap share, as you can see from the finishes on the season, but the upside was still very much there for Breece Hall. He just didn't really see a steady amount of big games in a row. Like, he would pop off and then he would go silent like the night when Santa Claus comes to town. So we are hoping that it is a lot more consistent this season, and you are getting the built-in risk with his ADP, right? We're not just drafting him in the first round. We're not even drafting him inside of the second round. We're drafting him at the end of the third round now, which to me makes him very much a steal in fantasy drafts. Last year, he was still pretty efficient, 18th in yards per touch, 13th in explosive rating, 14th in yards created per touch, and 50th in run block rating. Now, I don't necessarily think that the Jets have the best offensive line in the world. I don't think they've got a great wall in front of Breece Hall, but I do think things could be better. So as long as Breece Hall is involved in the passing game, as long as he's still the workhorse running back, which nothing I have read would indicate that he's not. And again, oh, Nick, that quote about Braylon Allen was about how he's going to be able to fall. He's always falling forward. Sure, maybe he vultures some touchdowns, but I'm not worried at all. I still think Breece Hall is the bell cow back, and I'm getting him in the third round. It's a no-brainer for me. Next up, we move to Josh Downs, wide receiver of the Indianapolis Colts. Current ADP, wide receiver 50 at pick 120. Wide receiver 35 last season in PPR. Wide receiver 31 in PPR points per game. 14 games played last year. He missed 2 games with a high ankle sprain from the preseason and missed another game with a shoulder injury from week number 13. He had 107 targets, 7.6 per game. He ranked 28th in targets, 25th in receptions with 72, 5.1 per game. He ranked 37th in receiving yards with 803, 57.4 per game, and 5 total touchdowns, 40th, while being pretty efficient. 22nd in yards per route run, 19th in formation adjusted yards per route run, 5th in route win rate, 19th in dominator rating, 23rd in fantasy points per route. In terms of targets per route run, according to Fantasy Points on Twitter, the top 5 guys are Puka Nacua, Malik Neighbors, Drake London. You ever heard of those guys, right? Those are some really good wide receivers, some of the best wide receivers I might add in the NFL. And then at number 4, we got Josh Downs, then Cooper Kupp, Nico Collins, AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Mike Evans, Amon-Ra St. Brown. So outside of Cooper Kupp, we're looking at guys that everyone loves this fantasy season. Everyone loves Puka. Everyone loves Malik Neighbors. Not everyone loves Drake London, but Drake London has top 24 ADP. He's a top 12 wide receiver in ADP. People love Nico Collins. They love A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Josh Downs is right there at number 4. He is an elite target earner. I fully understand. Nick, I don't trust Anthony Richardson. Nick, I don't trust Daniel Jones. Why should you? Right? Why should you? But we saw a decent season last year with subpar quarterback play. And if Josh Downs really is the wide receiver 1 in this offense, like we're seeing very positive reports out of camp pushing the Josh Downs narrative. And we've also seen some positive reports that Anthony Richardson looks better. Again, if you watch some clips from fucking July and you're like, holy shit, Anthony Richardson's figured it out. He's totally not going to get hurt, knock out wood. He's going to figure everything out. You're a little bit delusional, but I do think he could end up getting better. And in terms of looking at his reception perception profile, he was 90th in percentile success rate versus man. He was 92nd versus zone and 82nd versus press coverage. So Josh Downs is an incredible wide receiver. I get that there are risks with Daniel Jones. There are risks with Anthony Richardson. There are risks with the offense as a whole with Shane Steichen. How proven even is he? But Josh Downs looks very good on the tape department. He looks very good in the efficiency department. And his success rate versus coverage looks really good. So even with the quarterback concerns, as the wide receiver number 50, you just have to plug your nose and draft him, because while I'm not going to say like top 12 guaranteed wide receiver, you got to pick wide receiver 50, pick 120, you are potentially getting a guy at wide receiver 50 that you can put as your flex every single week, maybe even your wide receiver 2, and that is just a great deal. Next up, we move to Tank Bigsby, running back of the Jacksonville Jaguars, ADP running back 47 at pick 145. Now, the report from July 29th, yesterday, as you guys are watching this, if you're watching it day of release, Travis Etienne was seemingly the focus of the day for the backfield, getting plenty of work and popping off a few impressive runs. Tank Bigsby continued his strong camp and made it to the second level on a few occasions. And the reason why we want to focus on the idea of a strong camp is because since camp opened for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Duval, the drum beat has been incredibly heavy. Drummer boy like the Justin Bieber song in favor of Tank Bigsby as the guy. This is a report from July 25th, the Tank Bigsby show. If there was one running back who stood out throughout the practice, it was Tank Bigsby. Bigsby is normally a player who shines when the pads come on due to his physical nature, but he certainly looked the part in Friday's helmets and shorts practice with the Jaguars coaching staff frequently singing his praises. Bigsby seemingly got the bulk of the key reps for Liam Cohen's offense, and as a result stood out quite a bit from Travis Etienne. Each player made several nice runs, but it was clear for the start of practice that it will be a Tank Bigsby day, and that never seemed to change. So again, while we have seen the positive report about Etienne, that doesn't mean that Tank Bigsby is some schlub, because prior to yesterday, all of the drum beat was in favor of Tank Bigsby. Now, when you look at this backfield, it's Etienne, it's Bigsby, it's Baishal Tutin, and it is LeQuint Allen. I believe that the backfield will shake out with either Tank Bigsby or Etienne as the RB1 in week number 1. Now, Etienne seemingly has fallen off the edge of a cliff ever since early on in his career, and it seems like this is the opportunity for Tank Bigsby to take over as the running back number 1 on the team. And again, we saw in a Liam Cohen offense last year where we ended up seeing both Bucky Irving as well as Rachaad White really be able to show out. So it is entirely possible that in this offense, we end up seeing both running backs be able to coexist. That could be Bigsby and Etienne. It could end up being Bigsby and Tutin. It might end up not being Bigsby at all, and it's Etienne and Tutin. But I do believe that the Liam Cohen offense is very good for a running back like Tank Bigsby. And last season, he did have 2 games inside the top 8. I understand when you have a large sample size, when you played a bunch of games, having 2 top 8 games doesn't really mean diddly squat, but frankly, the upside, that just, in my opinion, shows the upside that Tank Bigsby possesses. And in games with over 60% of the snaps, he was averaging 17.2 PPR points per game as the RB number 16. So I don't want to necessarily say that Tank Bigsby is guaranteed to be the running back 1. I don't think that's the takeaway from this sentiment that I made, but at ADP, at this large discount, going for virtually free in redraft leagues, Tank Bigsby is definitely a guy that I want to be all over because, again, at that price, the upside is immense. Final guy to discuss is going to be Cedric Tillman, wide receiver of the Cleveland Browns, wide receiver 66 off the board in ADP, pick 181, not even getting drafted in most home leagues. Wide receiver 90 last season, wide receiver 78 in PPR points per game. I get that his full season wasn't great, but when we're talking about the highest of highs, that is what Cedric Tillman had. He missed, sadly, the end of the season after getting real hot from week 7 through 9. He missed the final 5 games of a season with a concussion from weeks 12 on. In those 3 games, week 7 through week 9, up against the Cincinnati Bengals, he was the wide receiver 10. He scored 18.1 PPR points. The next week, up against the Baltimore Ravens, wide receiver 3, 28.9, almost 30 PPR points, right on Brandon Stevens' head top. And then week 9 up against Hart and the LA Chargers, he was the wide receiver 12, 19.5 PPR points in that game. In that 3-game stretch, he clearly led the wide receiver room in terms of receptions. He had 21 receptions. Jerry Jeudy had 13. Elijah Moore had just 17. He also led in terms of targets, yards as well. So again, am I saying that Cedric Tillman is way better than Jerry Jeudy? No, but when there have been some positive reports about Cedric Tillman, and when that motherfucker from week 7 through 9 was the wide receiver number 2, there is definitely reasons to like him. Now, I get we have been burned. We have been eviscerated. We have been torched like the guy in Fantastic Four by players like this before, where they have that nice 3-4 games, cough, 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 Zamir White, right? You can remember those guys, Kenyon Drake in the past, right? Where you fall for a few game sample size, you draft them, and you end up feeling like you got completely screwed over. But what I want you to understand here is Cedric Tillman, you're buying off of a 3-game sample size. You're not drafting him in round 4, round 5, round 6. You're not drafting him inside the top 10 rounds. Most home leagues, he won't even get drafted. You're getting him for free. You are drafting him for free. Pick 181, wide receiver 66. So sure, there are 100% risks in just believing fully in a 3-game sample size. He's clearly the wide receiver 1 in Cleveland. I get the Cleveland Browns wide receiver core, like Jerry Jeudy's solid. I get the quarterback position is very, very confusing, like trying to take a test if it was in Wingdings, but at the end of the day, I'm willing to take that home run shot, Pete Alonso, Aaron Judge style here on a guy who I believe has as much upside as Cedric Tillman, and Matthew Harmon's reception perception also paints Picasso style a very positive argument for Matt Harmon. 2024 reception perception profile is now up on their site. He thrived once given true X receiver alignment, 70.2% success rate versus man, notable contested catch and in-space results. Tillman's strong stretch in the middle of the season was also destined to be forgotten because of how people view things, meaning that because people view 3-4 game stretches as fugazi, they're not even going to think about it. So again, he is free right now. I get there's a lot of negatives. The fact that he's on the Cleveland Browns makes it even more fucking gross, right? If you put him on some other team, right? Cedric Tillman has this great end of the season and he's on the Ravens. Oh, boy golly, right? You're going to be jumping out of your seat to draft him, but because he's on the Browns, it makes it even grosser. Again, if he was going in round 10, he would be a clear fade, but for free. I love Cedric Tillman. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did enjoying, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below like it owes you some money. Leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. Check out one of the videos on your screen if you haven't seen them already. And make sure you guys do check out Underdog promo code Notorious to get the free pick plus the first deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash, as well as getting my draft guide for free on August 1st. I love you long time. I hope you have a great one. And as always, good boy.